All right, so good afternoon. My name is Tabitha Thigpen. I am the magnet coordinator for King Drew Magnet High School, and we have the pleasure today of having a special presentation by Alex Volcy, and he will talk more about himself. He is an engineer and would like to share kind of his experiences and give you some suggestions. So here we go. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the intro. Yeah, let me just go ahead and share my screen and then we can get into it. Uh, can everyone see it now? I'm assuming you can see the screen. Yeah. Um, so I'll just get started by saying my name's Alex Volcy. I'm a software engineer at AT&T, and I'm sort of just going to give you this overview of what I wish I knew in high school and like basically my career path, like get to this point and why I think like a career in tech is interesting. The presentation, or like rather me speaking initially is like not that long, so there'll be a good amount of time for a Q&A at the end. Yeah, I hope you learn something from from me. So yeah, who am I? Alex Volcy. I'm 23 years old. I graduated from the University of Southern California in the winter of last year with a degree in computer science and business, and currently work at AT&T as a software engineer. I only have embarrassing photos of myself, so that's what you'll see throughout this presentation. Um, but yeah, the goals of like this session is like basically highlighting what I wish I knew when I was in high school and basically my path to like where I am now. So starting in high school, basically like who I was as a student at that time was one that like didn't really care too much about my classes. It was like difficult to like really focus and really zone in on classes when I'm like my priorities. I was far more concerned with trying to make the basketball team and trying to get a girlfriend, both of which didn't happen, both of which I failed at. My jump shot is not, I'm not tall enough, and my jump shot's not consistent enough for that to happen anyway. Um, and so I just had parents who just told me to go to college and that's it. They said it will set me up for my future, but like not really else. So it didn't really translate to me to like really focus that hard in classes, especially because like I never was naturally the smartest person in the room. It really required me a lot of effort to like understand subjects. It never really clicked, it just clicked for me. Um, and so when it came time to apply to colleges, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was asked to like, pick a major on these applications. Um, and I never knew how important of a decision that was, what it really meant. Um, and going to my next slide, the importance of um, the importance of a major is basically a question asking like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And that's a question I definitely couldn't answer when I was 17 years old. Nor did I know that you can only get certain jobs or pursue certain careers based on that decision, that based on picking a particular major, which is a decision you have to make when you're 17. And it's such a big decision. And I never knew about the weight of that decision. Um, and so I like put something essentially random on my major. I put psychology because I was like, oh, I can talk to people. I'm sociable. I'll just do that. And like my freshman year of college, my first class was intro to psychology, and I essentially failed it. So I was like, probably not the right route for me. Um, but like taking a step back, when I was making the decision, a career in tech or a career revolving around tech was never something that entered my mind. It was something that, it's when it comes to a representation thing, you never see big tech giants who are, minorities or who are black. So I never saw that as like an avenue for me. I never saw people who looked like me or who I like related with pursuing that field. And on top of that, the worst class in high school for me was math. The most difficult one was math. And I'm not the smartest person in the room. I couldn't grasp the subject, just naturally. Um, and because of that, like it was always so difficult for me to wrap my head around math and do well in the class. And, I often, I would mouth off in class and talk all the time. And in math class, I'd be like, why am I doing this? I would say that to my teacher. I'm like, why am I doing this hard thing? And I would sort of just get dismissed, which doesn't lead to me being like, oh, I want to learn more about math. I want to learn more about science. So I had no idea that tech, coding, engineering was really a viable path, which leads me to this like first suggestion. Since I know it's very big to be like, think about your career when you're 17 years old, when you're 18 years old. But there's little small things you can do that can like help you in the future, very small things. And I think one of those is pushing your teachers in whatever class that you're in. Um, so what what I mean by this is no matter what subject you're in, try and figure out how can I utilize this subject, whether it's math, physics, uh, chemistry, English, whatever. How can I utilize this in different careers? Maybe push your teachers by asking those questions, because maybe you'll get more of an honest answer back and begin to have an idea of maybe what you want to put down for that major. Because the only way to figure out, at least for me, what do you want to do in life is by trying a lot of different things out and giving like honest um, effort in those things, and pushing your teachers to give you some information will I think will help in that regard. Um, this is like another thing I do. This is like a picture from like a calculus class when I was in college. Like a little quick anecdote. This is what I would do in class when I got to college, when I was like really trying to figure things out. Is if I was in, if say for this like math subject, the teacher was like talking about some derivatives or some like complicated thing, it would always pass me by. I would always like not get it on the first try, and I would stop the class to be like, "Excuse me, teacher, I have no idea what just happened. Please explain that again, because I don't know what's going on." And it's like it's hard. It's hard to like build up that confidence, like say stuff like that. But you're not spending so much money to go to college and not learn something when you're in the class. Or at least that was um, my view on it. So I recommend that as well, to like stop the class if you don't know what's going on, because I'm in it so that I can learn, and you normally most people in the class don't know what's going on either, so it probably helps everybody. Transitioning from high school and then college, I want to touch on why I think a career in tech is cool, because 'cause I'm an engineer, and I want to market my industry, my path is like, why did I find it attractive? And let's be very blunt and straightforward when I say one of the first things that the career in this field is cool is the dollar signs. It's like a very well paying industry, especially for entry level positions, and that's not the only thing I look at, because there's plenty of jobs that there are career paths that uh, are very lucrative and give you a nice salary out of college, but are like terrible jobs to work at. So I was trying to find a balance between the money making and the actual work being something that I found to be interesting and fun and intriguing and not like a burden. And to that point, I found software engineering to be kind of like a puzzle, kind of like a game of sorts. Um, because when I'm like trying to solve a problem using coding, it's like pretty fun to see what works and what doesn't, what the computer responds to and what doesn't, to like solving whatever problem you're working on. And a third point is, I think at least tech, or careers in tech and technical roles specifically, it basically um, all industries, or most of them rather, have tech teams. So like it allows, pursuing tech can allow you to still pursue other passions of yours. And what I mean by this is like, I'm interested in sports, music, and movies, and that the NBA has a software engineering team. Big music records, or big music divisions have tech teams. Movie divisions as well have technical employees. So you could pursue this path and then still also be involved in a world that you find really interesting, like whatever regards to whatever your passions are or other passions that you have. Um, and so with that being said, finally what I like why am I like speaking to high school students? Um, it it centers primarily on the lack of representation of various minorities in this field. It's like no secret that me when I was going through my engineering classes in college and looking at the job market, there aren't that many Black people in it, aren't that many women in it, and various other minorities as well. And that's something that I want to address. And I think part of how to address it is you first most want to like see people that look like you that are in that industry, and I'm trying to show people my face like I'm there, um, and also show why that this is a possibility that and why I think this is cool. So I want to. So speaking to more students, maybe it can let you think about it more and see if this is something that you find interesting or something that you would pursue. Um, so that was my spiel, as I like to call it. Um, I'm totally open for any questions that anyone has about anything high school, college, applying to colleges, tech stuff, my job. Um, yeah, feel free to ask me anything. I am an open book, as they say.
And so what I would like is for students to be able to ask their questions so that for the recording we can hear them. So students, you can just unmute yourself if you would like instead of typing it in the chat, or if you type it in the chat, if Ms. Soto or Ms. Cooper could read the question, that would help so we could hear the question. Thank you.
Okay, so this question is for like when you were first getting into college. Where do you think your head was at? Like, were you confused to what classes you were gonna take, or like, did you plan it out before?
Um, I was definitely confused. My beginning my freshman year because like I was confused partly because I was at college and I was like, I don't even know what I want to do. So like, what classes am I supposed to take? I'm pretty sure I like skipped like orientation for so that may be on myself as well. Like my bad that I did that. But like, I didn't know like how many classes am I supposed to sign up for? Which ones are on for my major? Oh, I have to do like these general classes as well. It's all just like a lot of information that I wasn't prepared for. Um, but ultimately, I felt as though since I like knew that I wasn't like dead set on this psychology major, that I was like, why would I take classes towards this major if I know I'm not, if I think that I may not even want to do this? It was all just a lot of confusion. Um, that I think if you're spending so much money to go to some place, you probably want more clarity on what you're even doing there. Um, and so I definitely was confused, which is like part of the reason why I'm trying to circumvent some of that confusion and be like, what would I have wanted to have known when I was going to college? Because it's not as confusing. Once I figured it out, it wasn't as confusing as it seemed at the beginning. But that just came from trial and error on my part. But they usually have orientations at colleges to like tell you how to like sign up for classes and like how to like achieve like what the actual like path is. So you should like probably attend that because I didn't and I was like so confused.
I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so even though like the main goal of college is to, get a degree and get your education so you can further yourself in your career, people also, go to college for the college experience of
Mm.
making friends and, going to a few parties. So how did you find like a good median in the middle of, making sure that all your work was done and, you were going ahead and getting your degree while still enjoying your time in college?
Yeah, so I was. That's a good point. That there's like also a huge amount of value in college, strictly just from like the social growth that you go through from like being with so many other people of a similar ages with various backgrounds and whatnot. In order to keep the balance, especially when I started actually pursuing engineering specifically, because that's something I forget to say in my presentation pursuing a technical degree, or at least for me, requires a lot more work than if you were pursuing more like liberal arts degrees or like business degrees, just because there's a lot more studying, a lot more material. It requires a lot more effort. That's something I should say. It's something I should note. But when it comes to putting the balance between like hanging out with my friends and partying and studying and making sure my work got done, it's just about time management. That's probably like the key thing, um, which is like hard to learn, but you just gotta. I was lucky that I had a lot of friends that also had to study a lot, so we all were like on each other to make sure we put the time in for our classes, just so we could party with a peace of mind. Really, uh, there's nothing like anxious partying when you wake up the next day and you're like have so much work to do. Managing your time properly so that you don't have like mountains of work um, is like the key to that. And I'd say always like break up your work in like pieces so that you do a little bit of work each day rather than leaving it to like this mountain of work that I said. So time management is the key.
There's a question on the chat. Who introduced you to software engineering?
So this is like a, yeah. So that's like a gray area in my mind. Like who, like what specifically like drew me to that to software engineering specifically? Because there was like this like intro coding class in high school that I had, like this really basic thing, but I was like really turned off to it because like I was like, why am I doing this like random thing right now that I don't really know what this ties to more beyond this classroom? But when I got to college, well, first off, I was always interested in like computers and like tech in general, like video games and laptops and whatnot. But then when I got to college, uh, I saw like I would like oversee my roommate doing some coding and be like, what's going on over there? And then very close friends of mine also were already pursuing like electrical engineering degrees. Um, and from that point it like made me think like what are I would ask the question like what are you doing, or for both sides of that. And from there I learned what coding what this path was. And from there I like did my own research and trial and error, like trying to teach myself how to code to see if I had any interest in it. And then I was basically I was positioned because I switched my major to a business major after psychology. Um, but from there was a computer science. There was like a double degree with computer science and business, so it sort of offered me the opportunity to jump into that field and give it another try. So it came from my friends already doing it or doing something around that or in that space, my own genuine interest in tech, and then having the opportunity to like jump and try this other major out is like the three-pronged way that how I got there really.
How has your career been different since the pandemic?
Uh, so I got this. A similar question that came last time I did this. Um, so I started my full-time job like March 7th, and something like that. So I went to the office on Monday and Tuesday, and by Wednesday, everything was shut down. Like, or rather, like everybody was working from home from that point onwards. I only had 2 days in the office, so not much changed. Well, when it comes to being a software engineer specifically, it's kind of like working from home is like a part of it. You can just do that because like the drop off in productivity like isn't that drastic, and the systems were like already in place for virtual meetings and uh, like Slack communication and whatnot. Um, so from a work perspective, not much has changed. It doesn't like feel like that drastic. The only difference is like I had to really set up like a home workstation with like a nice monitor and a nice desk so that I could feel more productive when I'm in that space. But when it comes to like the actual work, not much has changed besides a 0 minute commute.
How did you decide which college to go to, and was location important in your decision?
Yeah, so when it came to, so because I didn't know like what I wanted to do for like my major, I never was able to like target certain schools that based on like how good of a computer science how good of a computer science program they had or business program they had. So I never like looked at it that way. I was just the very first thing I thought, because I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, which is the coldest place ever. There's like ice on the sidewalks exclusively. Like you can't walk without slipping, which is like which was infuriating for me when I was in high school. So the very first thing I said was I want to go somewhere warm. So California was like or Los Angeles or Southern California rather was like the first thing that came up. And then I was like, USC has like as a cool football program, right? So like that's like I didn't even think like academically when it comes to like the colleges I was looking at, and I had a counselor to help me out with this as well. It just so happened that USC was a really good school, and somehow my GPA and extracurriculars aligned to me applying there. It was definitely like the furthest reach of a school that I had, and I was lucky that I got in. But it was not as like I wasn't as strategic in like deciding which school to go to based off of like what I wanted to do. It was more like of the environment I wanted to be in.
So for high school students right now, like before we graduate high school, what things would you like give us advice not to worry about or overthink?
So for that, like I just think about what I worried about and what ended up like not mattering. The first thing is like of course like social like dynamics in high school are always like so prevalent in like my worries when I was in high school. Like, oh, do people think like I'm cool? Like, who are my friends? Uh, like I said, like who am I gonna like go to prom with or stuff like that is like it's so like big in the moment, but that like instantly vanishes once you go to college. So like it don't feel like that is like a permanent, no matter like when it comes to like socially, don't ever think that that'll be permanent because that goes away like instantly once you go to college, or it stays with you as much as you want it to. So like if you have like a lot of close friends in high school, you can easily remain close friends. Um, so don't worry about that, and that's like the key thing because that's like the thing that like always like bogged my mind down. So don't worry too much about that. Just focus on uh, just focus on like because everyone's like trying to like figure themselves out, and it's all like a lot of noise and a lot of change. So just don't worry too much about the social aspect of it. I think that's probably actually the key thing. And then just try in your classes. Like try to be there and study and try and learn the material and push your teachers like why am I learning this? I think are like the keys to like more success in high school. I did this last week too. That also, if there's no more questions, I also will take questions about the PS5 because I do have it.
There's two more questions. Has there ever been a racial encounter in your career field?
Um, there has not been in regard there has not been like in the workplace with me and like another employee or anything like that. Um, one a thing that I would speak on is like when during the summer, like when the George Floyd protests and the Breonna Taylor protests were happening this summer, it was very, very jarring for me. Of course, and it's difficult to work when you see when you see such like terrible images like that, or when something so big is happening around you, especially when it affects me so directly. Um, and so that was something that was like that um, my workplace was so open with and so good at having conversations about it and letting and allowing me to be open in regards to be like, hey, I don't feel great today after, all right, I'm not doing so well after seeing such hard and horrible things. And my work is very accepting of these like open dialogues and these open conversations. So there's never been like this like a racial encounter like that at my workplace. My workplace has been very supportive in me and yeah.
Um, and there's another question. Do you still see yourself doing this 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, so I don't see myself outside of uh, the tech industry. Uh, I can see myself stepping further away from the computer, if you will, as a software engineer and being more of a manager of software engineers. Um, because I also think like I don't know, I think my communication skills are like pretty strong in regards to like relaying information to people about like how to do something or what needs to get done or whatnot. But I also have a big interest in public service um, and like uh, paying it forward, if you will. So trying to meld that with the work I currently do is something I like want to grow and pursue more of in the future. But I still see myself in the tech industry for sure.
How do you get, um, or how do you pass a course if the professor is mean and doesn't want to help?
That's that's interesting. Uh, so I've definitely had my fair share of uh, bad professors, unhelpful professors. I've definitely had my share of them. I think it depends. It like depends school to school, but um, like USC, for instance, like it's I like has like a lot of math tutor resources. So if I had like a bad math course with a professor who like wasn't helpful at all, because I would always try to use the professor to like go to their office hours, help me with particular topics or whatnot. But if they weren't open to that, then I would move more into these like tutoring sessions, like these free tutoring sessions to like have students help me instead. I think it's just all about using the resources that you have to learn the material. Um, because that's like the way to like to get around that. Also, I also think having like open conversations with your professors is a key thing. Having like having a good like student teacher relationship is a key thing. So I would, if they have office hours or they have like meeting times with students, I would always like share your feelings and being very honest about how you feel about the course, and then hopefully they can reciprocate um, some sort of helping guide to help you through the course as well, or meet in the middle somewhere. Um, so I think melding the resources that a school has along with trying to have more of an open dialogue with the professor could help. I saw the UCLA versus USC football game question. We know what's going to happen. I'll just say that we know what happened.
Mr. Holloway trying to
Yeah, so
start some stuff. That's okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. Start some stuff.
I love it. I love it. So good questions. By all means, if you have them, please feel comfortable to ask or put it in the chat. We're happy to read them for you.
Would you say college is intimidating and as difficult as people make it seem?
um, college is intimidating. The less see, so this is it's like difficult because once you're on the other side of it, like when I was a senior in college or a junior in college, even I was like college wasn't intimidating at all, and it was difficult, but it wasn't intimidating because I knew how to navigate college, like how much time, how to like set my time so I had enough time to study and go for my classes and enough time to be social. Um, College is intimidating because when you're a freshman, everything is just so big and there's so much happening. Um, and like especially again, there's always the social aspect is always so like is what like intimidates me most because I'm like, oh, college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life. How am I supposed to like navigate the social scene while also trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with these classes and whatnot? So it's very intimidating in that regard. And that is true. But the important thing to note is that by your junior year you'll think all of it as easy as can be. So don't put too much pressure on yourself your freshman year when you know that it'll be a lot easier as you go through it, and it's just something you go through and you learn from just doing it, and finding your friends, finding your spaces, um, finding which classes or majors work for you. Um, is 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 what's going to happen. So it is intimidating, but not that intimidating. It won't always be like that.
Did the homework and projects overwhelm you?
So when I started pursuing the engineering degree specifically, homeworks and projects overwhelmed me only when I poorly managed my time. So when you only have 2 days to study for this huge exam, that's overwhelming. But when I knew the exam was coming 2 weeks ago, and I like just pushed it off because I had other things I wanted to do, it's on me that they were overwhelming. So you always have enough time to do your work in like a healthy manner. It's just about making sure that you just focus a little bit more on that trade-off of putting more studying in earlier so that I don't feel like totally pressure filled the night before. And it's easier for me to like be like, oh, just manage your time and you'll be fine, because it's like a difficult thing to like have discipline with. But it is like uh, very one-to-one in that regard. If you manage your time, you won't be as overwhelmed. But it's hard to be like, well, I could study tonight or I could just play video games, hang out with my friends. It's a lot easier to go that way. And some days you're just gonna go that way. It's just gonna how it's gonna be. And you shouldn't like kick yourself for that. Um, just know that next time you can just be more prepared next time. Um, but it's not inherently overwhelming.
Are there any issues or negatives that people don't know about the software engineering career?
So I've been like, it's hard for me to say because like I've only had one job. I mean, I've had an internship and one job at the same company, so I only have that to go off of, and it's been like very great, my job and the environment that I work in. Um, I think something about software engineering that like I try to like shed light on is that it's not like this impossible field that like you just can't that you may think that you just like can't like intellectually get or like understand, because I was at that place because I tried to teach myself coding and I was like, I have no idea what's going on here, and like I would try to be like um, diligent in like learning it. One summer, like the summer like before my sophomore year, and I was like, this just like, isn't happening for me, it just isn't working. But then I like took an intro to CS class at USC with a professor who was like far more hands-on and hands on hands-on and helpful. And then it finally just like over time clicked. It's something that takes effort to understand, um, and it takes more effort than you would think. Um, and now I'm at a place where like it's like it's sort of like a rewiring of your brain in regards to like how to think in this way. And now it's like a lot easier for me than it was then. Um, but I want to shed some light on that. But when it comes to actual software engineering specifically, I've only had really good experiences, so it's hard to say any real negatives.
So let's see. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Soto. There's another question.
Being from Boston and going to school in LA, are you a fan of basketball?
I am a fan of basketball. So before I show this, I was born in New Jersey. I lived like the first 10 years of my life in New Jersey. So I'm a Nets fan. Let's say that first. I have my Brooklyn Nets shirt on right now as we speak. So I am a fan of basketball, you could say. And I play 2K on my PS5 like crazy. So yes, I am very much a fan of it, but I'm not good at it. I try to be. I work on my handles. I'm really like good at defending. That's just because I foul everybody that I defend to like overcompensate or whatever. But I'm a fan of basketball. Let's just say that. I did want to. Oh, I meant to say this last time as well. But I don't know if I even left my email. But if you ever have like questions after this session that like you forgot to ask, my email is free if you want to like ask those questions about like any more like career, college, high school questions or whatnot. But that's uh that's just something I wanted to touch on.
You mentioned having an internship. How important is having internship experience in getting a job? Also, would you speak on getting an internship while in high school?
Uh, yeah, great question. I should have touched on this earlier. Um, so it was incredibly important. And I speak to college students as well about like that more specifically when it comes to like recruiting for a job. But getting an internship was like so important for me to like get a full-time job. So I was lucky enough that I got an internship and then just got a full-time offer from the job I interned for. But getting the internship was really difficult and um, required like a lot of effort and a lot of networking and a lot of application submissions and whatnot. Um, so that's something I should note when it comes to like getting an internship in college. The easiest way of doing that is having a strong network of like people that you know, which is just like networking is a word that like grossed me out when I was like a little younger. But really, what it is like just having friends that will like help you get jobs at like places they work for. So uh, having utilizing your friends and the jobs that they have is like a very viable thing to do. But getting an internship while in high school, I really can't speak on it because there was no way I was thinking about interning when I was in high school. But I do, and I don't know how helpful it could be, but it's not something I would worry about too too much because like it's so hard to like know what you want to do when you're in high school as well. So maybe it's harder to get an internship as well. But yeah.
Well, if there are no other questions, Ms. Soto, are there?
There's actually there's one.
Okay.
Okay, she mentioned, what about a job? Is it good on a college application? I guess to have a job before going to college.
Oh yeah. So when it's like applying to colleges, I had a job. I worked at like a supermarket. I was like a bag boy before I applied to schools. I don't know how much that plays into it. What I would say, and this is what I said last time, having like extracurriculars and like being in clubs and playing sports and participating in like performing arts and whatnot, I think is all helpful. Just like showing like the interest that you have. Um, but I would also say I think the college essay is a really key part of applying to college as well, because I think there's like this big pot of applications that sit people that have decent grades, good grades, but like aren't like exceptional that they just like auto accept you. And I think what distinguishes you are like extracurriculars and like your college essay that like shows who you are. So I think that's something that you should like take care in crafting. Just a story that like really shows who you are and like um, that I think that's something that you should not dismiss and something that you should put like some effort or put effort into. Because I think I always think that my college essay is what pushed me over the line to get to USC. So I would say that.
What is the best time to take your college classes? Would it be the morning, afternoon? And what kind of extracurricular activities did you do?
So never 8 a.m.s are never it. 8 a.m.s will it's like horrible because you're like guaranteed to skip your class if you do 8 a.m. because just some days you're just too tired to like get out of bed. I just like couldn't do it. It was like so bad. Um, and I think there's like a little like games that you can play. Like if you know people who are older, they can like hold classes for you. I would like put a lot of effort into making it so that you don't have to like do morning classes. Night classes also stink because like you think about them all day that you still have to go to class eventually. So I think there's a happy medium. I think like 10 a.m. is like the time to like have your classes. Um, and what was the second part of the question?
And what type of extracurricular activities were you involved in?
In high school, I was involved in a lot of things. I was like in Model United Nations. I was part of like the Social Action Leaders Club. I played lacrosse because basketball was a failure, so I had to switch to something else. But I was actually pretty good in lacrosse, no big deal. Um, and was there anything else I really participated in? There was a Del Sol group for minorities at the school. Um, I think so. I was a part of like I was like very much involved in like various things in high school, but all of them like didn't require like all my time or all my effort. It was just like small things that I did that like I only had to do like 1 hour a week or something like that. That makes like a big difference down the line in high school. So I always recommend like participating in things like that, and also it again helps in regards to figuring out what you want to do by just trying different things, and it benefits you because you can like put it on like your college application.
Any activities that you were involved in college?
In college, uh, in college, I was in a fraternity in college, um, and I was a part of NESB. That was like um, but it was something that I wasn't involved in enough. I wish I was involved in NESB more. NESB stands for the National Society of Black Engineers. Something I wish I was involved in more, and I'm trying to involve myself more after the fact now. Like by a part of their like alumni network. Um, but yeah, was there anything else I was in? I don't think so, because there's just so much to do in college that I wish I did more like extra like be a part of more clubs. Oh, I was a part of Engineers Without Borders, which was um, like this like charity club to like where engineers get together and like solve problems in like other countries. Um, so I was a part of that group as well. But I wish I could have done more. But there's like a lot of offerings in colleges, and I again utilize those like avenues to explore more um, interesting topics or like things that you could do.
Does your employer have team building experiences? Does this help during stay at home?
We have like we have like weekly like all team meetings that are helpful in that regard. I like meet with my like very small team every single day. Um, and we have like sometimes we play games or just chat that all help with uh, being a team. When it comes to work, I like it's like the same way like I'm speaking now, or like the same way I speak to like my friends or my family is like pretty much the exact same way I bring myself to work, which just allows me to like not. I'm trying to like be more like of my honest self in like every arena that I'm in. just because it's exhausting to like try and like fake your demeanor in like a work environment. And my work is like very accepting of that. Like I wear like, I wear like hoop earrings to my job. Not like that's like a distinguishing factor, but that's like I can just do that with ease without like thinking of it. Um, so we have plenty of team building experiences that like allow us to like be more like comfortable with each other. And yeah, it very much helps at stay at home to make you feel those that you're still connected to an employer and a company and a workplace with like these team building exercises or experiences.
How did you get your PS5 and is it overrated?
It is overpriced. That's what I would say. It cost it. So like, I could go on for days that Sony did a bad job at like supplying or doing like pre-orders for PS5, so they're like impossible to get, which was frustrating. So I had to like overpay for it. But it's amazing. Now that I have it, it's like amazing and like so much fun. Um, and Cyberpunk comes out tonight, and that's all I'll do tonight. It's so much fun, I would say, but it's so hard to get, which is such a pain. I also so I did this last time too. I don't know if we like can do it again or if there's like a more like formal way of doing it. But like, did like for the students, like, did you like this? Did you like my presentation? Like, was it like engaging or not, or what? Like, I could have done better. I probably should do like more of like a formal survey for like this, but I always like try and get like a sense of like if people liked it or not. Um, so you can message that if you want, but I always put that out there. Maybe I can do a more formal version of it. Um, but yeah, thank you for having me, as I always say.
Well, we thank you. It was great. Oh, you're already getting, 5 stars in the chat. Wonderful. This was awesome. A great opportunity. We really thank you for giving us your time and for you helping students to really consider what their options are and to think about what you wish you had known. Um, we'd all like that, more of that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And again, if you do have any remaining questions, anyone, we will be putting the video up and I will have his contact information as well. So I'm going to end our recording here and say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.